Supremacy. Okay, I did not pull out the dictionary today, but I can if I need to. For starters, the deflection and refusal to admit that you're wrong. Furthermore, the enabling of this behavior coming from females, which is the ultimate betrayal to yourself, to deny majority of women, especially women of color, be it so-called black, Native American, mixed race, biracial, Latina, and the list goes on. When we hear these bogus allegations and statements that are still speaking about white supremacy, that are still speaking about how black women are culpable for some dysfunction or toxicity in the community, to go on and then to evade any accountability, any responsibility, any partaking in that culpability of the dysfunction and toxicity and subordinate position while being a person of color, whether these are children, females, women, males, or so-called men of color. Now, quite frankly, whether I have actually met a quality, honorable, respectable, recommendable black man, I don't know. I don't know. This even extends to other races of males who, quite frankly, to call them men is disrespectful to my intellect and to my own self and the usage of the word man. Men provide for their women. Men can admit when they're wrong. Men provide for their children, their families. Men do not enslave females or children. Men do not make excuses for their dysfunctional behavior. Men take leadership and do not have to be told what to do. Men know their strength. They know their skills. They know their talents. And men, a man's purpose is to protect and provide for his family. Now, that in and of itself is difficult to do when you have males who prefer to target and prey upon children, both male and female, in their youth and even all the way into their senior years, into exploiting, taking advantage of, whether it be financially, sexually, physically, emotionally, spiritually, spatially, and then not reciprocating what they are extracting and consuming from their targets. This culture and the legacy of condoning toxic behavior, blame shifting, blaming the boogeyman, blaming women, blaming children, blaming God, blaming the devil, blaming the environment, recognizing these toxic behaviors and personalities within others, but incapable of self-analysis. This rhetoric and preaching of humble and how a woman should know her place and to not speak in public or in church or to wrap her hair, or the excuses for predatory behavior. Excuses such as what she was wearing, how she was walking, where she was, where he was, where the children were. Oh, you shouldn't have let him in. You should have chose better. You should have known better. You should have done better. Everything except for holding accountable those same people who want to enjoy the privileges, the accommodations, and the essentials of being an adult, but then falling short more often than not as to being an actual adult, wanting the benefit of being an American, but not willing to make sacrifices, stand up for themselves, speak out for those who are vulnerable. Instead, is willing to be almost like an attention whore, always focused and remaining in a victimhood mentality and position, always putting others in front of them as if they are shields, as if they are armor. Mind you, these are children, females, women who are sacrificed and placed in front of males, literally, figuratively, as if their discrepancies to their desires, to how they so choose to present their physical bodies in this world is more important, is more urgent, and needs the most attention in comparison to any other plights that are faced in these nations on this planet. Everyone else's problems and urgency and emergencies are postponed while the country sits and gives their attention and their focus to supposed to be grown adult males and their victimhood and their pain and suffering. But when it comes to a common theme that is often not expressed about, is not discussed in the media, there's not enough reports done, there's not enough reports that are taken. The voice is often muffled out, silenced, and overshadowed by someone else's perspective of tragedies. There are so many accounting stories, experiences that through a woman's lens and through her journey, she has had to, for the sake of survival and for others, she has sacrificed her own free will, sacrificed her own comfort, sacrificed her body, her spirit, sacrificed her finances, sacrificed her dignity, sacrificed her femininity, sacrificed her sexuality, sacrificed her mental, sacrificed sacrificed and sacrificed and took on burdens that were supposed to be through actions done, provided, partooken by these same males who religiously blame, hurt, and harm her and her children, gaslight, argue with, emotionally and verbally assault, abuse, use, degrade, whether it's for entertainment or because his inability to regulate his emotions. Easily triggered, it seems. The most interesting that can be observed is how well and to what lengths of stifling the sounds of truth, how much distractions, how much murders, how much abuses, attacks, gang stalking, targeting, harassing, bullying, the exploiting of resources, smear campaigns, defamation of character. These same males who are victims, who have people of other races as well as females of color, children, marching, having speeches for, including in their discussions of trauma, including in their discussions of history. Yet, there's no reciprocation ever noted in history, even presently. There is always a center focus point on male, man. So to ask another man of another shade, of another color, ethnicity, race, to give you a job rather than you doing what need be done to create your job, demand your job, make your job, make a way. Men don't ask nor sacrifice children and women for agendas to support other males. Men don't do that. Men lead. Men ask questions. Men make sacrifices for the greater good of his family. And there have been more women, females, and children of color who have done more on the behalf of their race, of people as well as others, as if she herself is also a man. She has impacted this very world through her effort and works, something of which has never been properly commended, given proper attention to, respected, appreciated, paid, repaired, she still to this day is being exploited, mistreated by other races, as well as the so-called group of which she supposedly belongs to, which by behavior and character is incorrect. She does not belong to a man. That's not his women. That's not your women. That's not your people. We are not your people. If we were, we would know. Any man who witnesses what happens to a woman of color, a female of color, children of color, even boys, as a male man of color, and instead of taking action and doing the necessary activities and making the necessary choices to deter, desist, and put a stop to that traumatic cycle of abuse and exploitation, if instead he joins in on the dehumanization, exploitation, and abusing and oppressing of black women, female, and children, then he's not only just guilty, he's more wrong than that supreme color of which he still speaks about. And perhaps with that information, perhaps it is white supremacy. Perhaps it is. Perhaps it is very real and very true. And the only reason why it would be because a refusal to be better, a refusal to take care of your responsibility, for his refusal to be a man, and relegating women, females, and children to do his bidding. And then, what does he do to the very beings who have provided and been the root cause and reason why he's been able to thrive, get resources, make a career off of, get notoriety, and gain some sort of position or establishment? He tramples over those very same women, children, sacrifices them, and he does it by abusing them, molesting them, raping them, murdering them, pimping them, exploiting them, abandoning them, getting the system involved. He conspires within that very same system he claims oppresses him. And while he will complain in front of a camera or in personal exchanges of life, you'll never hear him mention a single thing about those women and children who are underrepresented and more often than not were also betrayed by the very man who claims, the very male who claims that he's being oppressed. To make matters worse, those very same ones that he selected to be scapegoats, instead of leaving them alone, or if he gets outed or exposed, or his little secrets run around in the world, he does everything in his power to quash out the truth rather than to face it, embrace it, and change it. He will go so far as to hurt his own children. He will put on a pedestal someone else's children and then allow his own children to be abused when he's in the picture. When he's out of the picture, then he's just simply out of the picture. His measly contributions of anywhere between $30 to $40 every now and again, blue moon, he acts as if it was $1 million he had just placed into your hands. Having children out of marriage because through deception, through force, coercion, intimidation, badgering, cornering, targeting, and isolation, he manages to achieve gaining entrance into a womb he never should have been blessed to ever enter. And then, as if he is some king, this delusion and talk of old ancient days never seems to arrive in the present day. In the present day, this once upon a time king is murdering, pestering, living, and feeding off of a king with breasts and ovaries. And then with his gall, he will make music, media content, art, books, jokes, podcasts, content that is primarily centered on the devaluing, scapegoating, blaming, and abusing women, females, and children of color. And if not that, then it is through criminal enterprise or entertainment, sports. There are those who are intelligent and they do not fit the stereotype. I don't know them personally. I know some that even though they even went to a great college and have degrees and are great with computers and electronics and know how to do all of the scientific and mathematical problems and calculations. Yet, the skeletons in the closet are so severe and so extensive that to call it a good one or a unicorn is a bold-faced lie. This shameful participation, witnessing, observing, and burdensome relation, genetically or in proximity, is the worst punishment known to humankind and to consciousness. For lack of better words, the pimps are in pulpits. The church is treated like a rug. Heaven is hidden, ignored, but used quite intensively consecutively like a commodity, hidden, buried, stifled, and scared. Broken, living in an actual hell. Hell, in an actual hell, prison camp, nightmare. And the thanks that she gets is poverty, sexual deviation, objectification, murder, rape, STDs, STIs, mental diagnosis, stress, physical battering, scars left permanently, the physiological manifestation of a burly masculine female who has never experienced the privilege and right to her actual rights as a feminine woman, because she has been burdened with a curse of living with adult, immature, ego-driven, irresponsible, selfish, self-centered, violent, vile liars, cheaters, thieves, rapists, predators, males. Many who would prefer to be her, and while attempting, and even in some cases, physically appealing, but still demanding that his gaze and his visibility is more appropriate, more important, more essential, more urgent than hers, an actual woman who is lacking support, lacking advocacy, lacking resources, lacking protection, lacking education, lacking information, lacking the proper environment and the proper population of intelligible adult male and females. And she is not guilty of anything and need not apologize for anything. She was betrayed, lied about, lied on, lied to, stolen from, stolen, sold, mistreated, beat, scarred, penetrated, infiltrated, disrespected, faithfully for centuries. And the nation that feeds on the essence of her, every fiber of her, has the nerve to blame her for her plight, deny her her restoration, try to obstaculate her progression to undoing a doing that she is not guilty of. She received such a burden from unreasonable, reprehensible male and females. Never given any thanks, credit, appreciation, gratification, nor validation for her many, countless contributions. A birth of a nation of disrespectful, ungrateful, audacious people. She has ungracefully been designated to being disrespected by her own creations. And nobody seems to have enough courage, audacity, strength, or power to stand up for her and do right by her. But they certainly seem to have all the strength and energy to continue to shame her, disgrace her, insult her, offend her, is repulsive, scandalous, and seethingly embarrassing. We and she is not your people or your women. She has evolved past all of you who ignore and attempt to gaslight and derail her from speaking, vocalizing, expressing, living, and being her truth. And that's exactly who she is truth. Shame on you. You're an embarrassment to the entire existence, and you do not deserve her. You should be honored by her. You have no problem taking from her. You have no problem stealing from her and using her, but you have all the problem, all the reason, and you are to blame for what standard of living that she's in. It's due to your greed and your inability to address yourselves. So you try to project it onto her. An abomination.